Hello and welcome. This is class number 35 of the quick revision series for Prelims 2024. We are about to reach the end of this series and I really hope that this has been extremely helpful for you. We still have a lot of other important topics to go, like the places in news and defense sector news, etc. So do stay tuned for that. I hope you have downloaded all the PDFs so far. In case you have not, you can join the Telegram channel. The link is in the description of the video where I upload all these PDFs. Also do hit the subscribe button so that you can get notification for all the future lectures that will be happening here. So without any further ado, let's begin. The first news is India's first indigenously developed hepatitis A vaccine was launched in January this year. The name was called HaviSure. So do remember this, HaviSure. It is hepatitis A vaccine, first one to be developed indigenously in India. It has been developed where? Hyderabad-based Indian Immunological Limited. This is the organization that has launched it. It is owned by the National Dairy Development Board. So this is interesting. It's actually an organization that works under National Dairy Development Board that has come up with this hepatitis A vaccine. Again, HaviSure. It was first launched in 2014. It's a 2-dose vaccine specifically for children with routine immunization that will start at 12 months of age. Again, it is marketed mainly for children, but it can also be given to adults as well who are at a risk of hepatitis A infection. As I said, 2 doses. Usually they are 6 months apart, and it has now become part of India's universal immunization program called the UIP. Do remember the name HaviSure, and do remember it is for hepatitis A variant. Next news, electronic soil, that is e-soil. Researchers have developed this particular soil, artificial developed of course, that has been found to help in the growth of certain crops such as barley seedlings by 50% in a new study that was conducted. Means now we are not just going towards artificial meat, but even artificial soil known as electronic soil has been rolled out. Now what exactly is this? This is an electronically conductive cultivation substrate. Obviously it's not real soil. It will be specifically for a hydroponic system. Now what is hydroponic? You would have seen this is a new technology that is becoming famous now. Hydroponic is a technology where the plants are grown only in water rather than soil. So usually you have plants in soil and then you water the soil. But the idea is that maybe when you water the soil, appropriate amount of water does not reach the roots, and that is why it's better to go ahead with hydroponic systems. Hydroponic system again would be where plants are grown in nutrient rich water. This is not just any normal water, it has to be fortified with additional nutrients, and that is how it is usually used in hydroponic plants. This e-soil is made up of what? It is a blend of cellulose, which is a natural biopolymer, along with conductive biopolymer called the PEDOT. They are conductive in nature that allows e-soil to deliver low power electric currents to the plant roots. That is important. Please remember, these are conductive in nature. They can pass on certain currents. They will stimulate the growth in the root and make sure that nutrient uptake by the plant increases. And again, this has been proved in barley seedling specifically, with over 50% growth being shown in that particular seedling. Next one, there is a news about obelisks. Now what exactly are obelisks? So usually whenever we find a new form of life, how we differentiate it is we have to see the biochemical characteristics of that particular form of life, how it survives. Is it similar to another species that is existing or not? When you have a new form of life that does not come close to any existing species, that is when you have to then give it a new category. And that is where a new category has been found, which is not similar to virus, not similar to viroids. There is a third unusual life form that has been introduced called obelisks. Do remember the name? Obelisks has now been given the category of the third unusual life or unusual life form rather. First is virus, second viroids, and third obelisk. Now what exactly are they? They were recently discovered. Virus-like entities only, they're found in the human body, and they have a very diverse RNA. They usually have a rod-like structure. Genetic sequence are about 1000 nucleotides long. They are usually distinct from other known biological agents that we know, and they are usually seen to be somewhere between virus and viroids. They're made up of RNA, as we just discussed, and it facilitates self-replication, means they can increase their population within the bacterial cells. They rely on the host cells. They don't really have their existence on their own. They usually rely on bacteria or fungi, with the help of which they can replicate and they can increase their population. They are capable of propagating from parent to the offspring cell, and as I said, when they are present inside the human body, whether they can be present in animal body, etc., all these things are still unclear, and it remains to be seen whether they can exist inside the bacteria or not. There are different types of obelisks that appear to be present in various areas of the human body, so it's a big scientific discovery. Also, many of you might not even have heard of viroids. Virus everyone has heard, but viroids maybe some of you have not heard. Viroids was a new form of life discovered in 1971. It was first discovered as an infectious agent which had a single stranded RNA. So these are infectious microbes. They are basically small, they have circular small RNA of their own, which is about 200 to 400 nucleotides long. For comparison, we just read for the obelisks, they have their genetic sequence as 1000 nucleotides long. So obelisks are larger in size as compared to the viroids. Do remember that. There is no code for their proteins, and they rely mainly on their host machinery for replication. So again, just like the obelisk, they also need to have a host for their replication. If they want to increase their population, they require an external support. They require a host for that. They are known to cause diseases both in plants and in animals as well. So that is how they are dangerous. Next news from WHO. WHO recently launched, not recently, a few months back, launched the GONE initiative, GONE. What is GONE? This stands for Global Onchocerciasis Network for Elimination, that is GONE. So there is a disease called onchocerciasis. This is also called as a river blindness. This is one of those neglected diseases that are spread in multiple parts of Africa, but not a lot of research has gone into that. It's one of those tropical neglected diseases that affects tropical countries, people living in extremely poor areas, and that is why pharma companies have not put in a lot of research for their diagnosis and for their remedy specifically. WHO has now taken up the matter and has launched the GONE initiative. This was launched in November last year. It had over 150 partners, including health officials, experts, etc. There was a meeting for its launch in Senegal. This aims to enable the countries to accelerate the eradication of this disease and to ensure that all the healthcare experts can come together and share their knowledge to expedite this process. Now, as I said, this is also called as river blindness, and it is one of the neglected tropical diseases. The second leading cause of worldwide blindness, in fact, specifically seen in underserved rural communities where hygiene is a big issue. There is lack of hygiene across wide areas. It's caused by a parasitic worm called as Onchocerca vulgus, and that is why it has been given this name. It spreads by black flies that flow near or that exist near fast flowing rivers, and that is why it is called as river blindness. It can cause blindness which is irreversible. It can also cause skin irritation and itching, etc. Globally, it has affected 244 million people, but 99% of those cases are in Africa. And again, this is a sad reality that when a disease usually exists in poor parts of the world, you will not see a lot of research by the pharma companies because they think that it would not be worth their effort, because they would not be able to sell their vaccines or their medicines at a high cost. And that is why it is a major cause of concern, which pushes the other countries to come up and take up this issue. Remaining 1% cases are seen between Brazil and Venezuela. WHO has also confirmed that some countries like Colombia, Ecuador, Guatemala and Mexico have eradicated its transmission. So interestingly, these three, that is Colombo, Ecuador and Guatemala, or rather Colombo and Ecuador, are in South America, and then we have in North America, Guatemala and Mexico. So wherever it has been eradicated, those countries were outside Africa. So in Africa, they have not been able to eradicate it. Another news from WHO. WHO for the first time has awarded certain countries that have made considerable progress in eliminating industrially produced trans fat. Now, as you know, trans fat is a big health concern, not just in India but around the world. There are a lot of food products specifically that contain trans fats, and because they are produced in such large numbers in industries, it is a big health concern all around the world. WHO has talked about this, and WHO for the first time has awarded those countries who have made great efforts in eradicating this industrially produced trans fat. Now, which are these countries? What is the parameter for eradication? Let's look at that. WHO has given this recognition to Denmark, Lithuania, Poland, Saudi Arabia and Thailand. These are the countries which have successfully eliminated industrially produced trans fatty acids. At present, there are 53 countries that have implemented best practices policies that were shared by WHO. So WHO basically earlier told the nation that this is what you should do. By doing this, you should be able to control the problem of trans fatty acids. Those countries that were able to follow up on this, those countries that were able to eliminate this problem, they were given these awards. Basically, the idea is that the food environment for about 46% of the world's population is now under this practice, because the 53 countries that have implemented this form about 46% of the entire world's population. So we might see an impact in the global health standards. In order for the countries to get this recognition, to get this award, they need to come under monitoring of the WHO. And as we discussed, they need to adhere to the practices that WHO has given, the guidelines that WHO has released. What is the criteria? This is important. When WHO gives you the certificate that yes, you have eliminated it, what is the criteria? Over here, let me give you a question related to India. A few years back, India was given the certificate which said that India has eradicated polio. Now tell me in the comment section, what are the conditions under which a country is proven to have eradicated polio? This is what you have to tell me again in the comment section. What is the parameter, what is the criteria based on which WHO says that okay, now you have eliminated polio? So for this particular award, for the countries to be given by the WHO, the criteria was number 1, impose a mandatory national limit of only 2 grams of ITFA per 100 grams of total fat in all the foods. ITFA is the industrially produced trans fatty acids. Second, enforce a mandatory national ban on production or use of partially hydrogenated oils, which is a significant source of trans fat. Third, implement a combination of PHO ban and ITFA 2% limit. So basically impose and then implement it. If you fulfill these criteria, you will be recognized by WHO as one of the countries that have made efforts in eliminating this, and this is what these countries did. That is why they were awarded. What has India done? Has India been working towards eliminating trans fatty acids? Yes, we are working towards it, but not at a great pace. See, in a country such as India, where you have so many informal places where you go and eat, there are roadside places that you go and eat, fast food, restaurants, etc. Keeping a track of all of that becomes very difficult. And a thing like trans fat, etc., if you want to avoid that, you also have to go to slightly more expensive alternatives. In a country like India, where when you go and eat some food, cost is a big factor. That is why in these developing countries or least developed countries, eliminating this kind of a problem takes more time, including in India. We have implemented the Eat Right India movement by FSSAI. Not just this, they have mandated declaration of trans fatty acid content on nutrition labels. So whatever you actually buy, on the printing on the labels, when you see components as how much protein it has, how much fat it has, carbohydrate it has, it also has to mention how much trans fatty acid does it have. Also, WHO had earlier started an initiative called Replace. This was again for trans fatty acids. R stands for review the dietary sources. P for promotion of replacement of ITFA. Then legislate means make a law. assess the trans fat content in the food supply, create awareness, and then enforce compliance with the policies. This was WHO's Replace initiative. Next, a new treatment has been launched or announced rather by the Home Ministry for leprosy specifically. The government of India has been trying or working extremely hard to stop the transmission of leprosy by 2027. The global aim to eradicate leprosy is by 2030. We want to achieve it faster. We want to achieve it by 2027. And this new treatment will go a long way in achieving that. There is a 3-drug combination that has been approved by the government. First, Dapsone. Second, rifampicin. Rifampicin, you would remember, is given in tuberculosis as well. And second is clofazimine. This treatment or this combination of 3 drugs is supposed to be the new line of treatment for leprosy, because the aim that we have is to eradicate the disease by 2027. India already has a national leprosy eradication program running, and the aim is to eradicate the disease by 2027. Here are some details that you should know about leprosy. It is called as Hansen's disease, caused by slow growing bacteria, that is Mycobacterium leprae. It usually affects different parts of the body, eyes, very importantly, nerves, skin, etc. It is usually transmitted through respiratory droplets. It is also transmitted through close contact over months of untreated individuals. The treatment is a crucial part, so there is treatment available. And again, remember, we are planning to eradicate this within the country by 2027. The government does say that we are on track to do that. Fingers crossed. Let's see what happens by 2027. The government of India also has something called the Nikusht 2.0 portal, which is for case management of leprosy. Leprosy eradication program was first launched in 1983. What is the status in India? In 2005, we eliminated leprosy as a public health problem at national level. WHO's requirement was that if you have less than 1 case per 10,000 people, we will say you have eradicated it. But in India, leprosy still remains, although below this mark. Leprosy rate in India was, or in 2021, it was 0.45 per 10,000 people. So we still want to bring it down. New case detection rate is 5.52 per 1 lakh. Don't be confused. From 0.45 to 5.52, 0.45 was per 10,000. 5.52 is per 1 lakh. So if you translate that, it will also become 0.552 per 10,000. So we are below the WHO benchmark, but we still have a long way to go before we can eradicate it properly. Next news, Bharat GDP Group has unveiled a new AI model called Hanuman. What exactly is Hanuman? It is mainly an AI model that understands multiple languages. It can respond in 11 Indian languages. The idea is, for example, let's say you are traveling in a place, within India itself, you are traveling in a state where you don't know the local language. And if you get hurt, you have to go to a hospital, you have to converse, you have to tell them what happened, and they have to understand your language, and you can't understand how to translate. These are some of the applications where this AI model called Hanuman will be helpful. It's launched by the Bharat GTP Group along with IIT Bombay. It has been launched in collaboration with Sita Mahalakshmi Healthcare, supported by Reliance Industry Limited. So it's a private sector initiative. Again, it's a series of large language models right now designed in 11 languages to respond in text, to respond in audio, and even to respond in the video version. So this is again how this has been aimed. The application of this particular AI model can be seen in healthcare, as I gave you an example of hospitals, governance, government offices, financial services, banks, etc., and even in education. This is specifically important for a country like India, which has so many different languages, and you can't have a barrier between two people not being able to communicate just because of language. And this is why these kind of initiatives are important. As I said, it generates response in text, speech, and videos in multiple languages. That is how it usually works. Next important news from India's nuclear sector. A new nuclear fuel has been developed called ANIL. ANIL stands for Advanced Nuclear Energy for Enriched Life. This is a very, very important discovery because India, unlike uranium, it is believed that India has considerable deposits of thorium. So in our entire research about nuclear energy, India has been trying to see, can we use thorium somehow? And this is what India's three-stage nuclear program also is about, to make use of thorium as a fuel rather than uranium. Now that we have discovered a new form of fuel, one of whose components will be thorium, that is a big discovery, and that fuel is called anneal, ANEEL. It's said to be the next generation nuclear fuel. So basically it has been developed by a US based company, and they have named it after the famous Indian scientist Dr. Anil Kakorkar, Indian scientist who served as the chairman of Atomic Energy Commission from India from 2000 to 2009, one of the biggest names in India's atomic energy sector mainly. He had made a lot of contribution in ensuring that we achieve the goal of having our own pressurized heavy water reactors. Now, how is this fuel different? So this fuel is combination of thorium and high SA low enriched uranium. So it's not that we are removing the need for uranium completely, but we are reducing its need and we are bringing in thorium. Consider it the same as ethanol blending. So when you say ethanol blending, you are mixing ethanol with petrol, you are reducing the requirement of petrol because you yourself have a lot of ethanol. Similar is the case here. Since you have a lot more thorium, so you would want to increase its composition or its contribution in that fuel. It can be used in existing pressurized heavy water reactors, which is India's own industrially built nuclear reactor. This is something which is a big discovery. As per the World Nuclear Association, most of the current reactors are on thorium fuel enriched up to 5%. HALEU, that is uranium enriched more than 5% but less than 20%. That is the idea, and we will be mixing up thorium with it. Thorium is usually found in beach sands, and it has been seen that beach sands of Kerala, etc., do have a considerable amount of thorium deposits in them. The anneal fuel can also stay in the reactor for much longer than traditional fuel. That means much more energy for the same amount of input that we are giving the reactor. It produces lesser radioactive waves also because the radioactive waste is mainly a byproduct of uranium. Thorium will have much lesser radioactive waste, thus it will be much more friendly for the environment, and also, not to repeat, it will be helpful or it will be easier for us also to take care of this waste, because one of the biggest problems that countries right now are facing is how to dispose this nuclear waste, and that can be a way out for that as well. Next, a news about something called the Pemba effect. Researchers in California claim that hot water freezes faster. Something that you would not usually say or usually assume, but it has been proven that hot water freezes faster. This is called the Pemba effect. Do remember this. How? The observation is that hot water can, remember, sometimes, not always, sometimes freezes faster than cold water under certain conditions. This effect was seen in a variety of liquids like water, ethanol and glycerin as well. This effect is called the Pemba effect. How does it work? Let's try and understand. It usually occurs when the hot water is cooled down very quickly, and it is usually seen in small samples of water and not in large samples. It can have some application in different fields. For example, it can be used to speed up freezing of food, freezing of other liquids. But again, since it can be done, or it has been proven only in small scale or in small quantities, it would not really have a major impact or a major discovery in science. But again, remains to be seen whether something new comes up. But for now, just remember this one line: Pemba effect, spelled as MPEMBA, which means that in certain conditions, hot water can freeze faster as compared to the cold water, only under certain conditions. The last news for this class is leap second. Now, as you know, year on years, we have been adding a leap second to adjust with the rotation of the earth and to make all the clocks aligned by that around the entire world. Now, scientists have found out that melting ice sheets may postpone the need for a negative leap second. What exactly is this? How does it work? Let's try and understand. So there was a study that was done recently, according to which because of climate change, Earth's rotation is obviously speeding up, and because it speeds up, we usually skip a second, because see, we have to ensure that 24 hours is the cycle of the entire day. So we usually skip a second whenever we think that Earth's rotation speed is increasing. So we thought that maybe around 2029 we have to have a negative leap second. So we have to bring it back mainly. We have to have a negative leap second so that we can actually bring it back aligned with the entire world and the atomic clocks. Leap second, as I said, is usually used to combat the slowing down of the Earth's rotation, which is caused by constant melting and refreezing. Now, because it is melting and not refreezing at such a fast pace, we would want to adjust all the seconds that we have added. So because of all the seconds that we have added, to adjust that, we want to get a negative leap second. Scientists were thinking that maybe by 2029, around the world, we have to basically go back a second, all the clocks, but now it seems that we will delay it slightly more. It is added every now and then to the universal time, a coordinated universal time, to synchronize the clocks worldwide, that is the leap second, with the Earth's slowing rotation. Again, the rotation of the Earth is slowing because of how the ice is melting and then it's refreezing again depending on the season. This system of leap seconds first came up in early 1970s. So far, 27 positive leap seconds have been added. So far, our day basically from 1970s to today has increased by 27 seconds. About 27 seconds have been added. UTC consists of that time scale which combines output of over 300 extremely precise atomic clocks. Atomic clocks are considered to be the most accurate way of keeping up time. Even when you look at satellites sent to space for navigation purposes like GPS, India's IRNSS, they usually have atomic clocks because they are considered to be the most accurate form of clocks. So on the other hand, the astronomical time refers to Earth's rotation around its own axis, which determines the length of the day. Now, interestingly, the speed of rotation of the Earth around its own axis keeps on changing due to a lot of factors. Mainly the factors include moon's gravitation force, ocean's tides are also impacted by it. We even, if you remember, had discussed earlier, deriving out too much groundwater has also impacted Earth's rotation speed and its tilt also. So a lot of these factors have impacted the Earth's rotation. That is why second is either added. It has been added so far only. Now scientists are thinking of maybe taking out 1 second, and it might happen in 2029 or slightly later. The astronomical time usually falls out of sync with the atomic time because again that concept of the leap second comes into the picture. Leap second is usually added either in between the year, that is June 30th or December 31st. Do remember that. This is how usually, or that is the time when it is usually added in between the clocks. This was our session for the day. I hope you learned something new. 5 more sessions to go. Do stay here to complete the entire revision of 2024 current affairs. Thank you so much. Bye bye. Jai Hind.